Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It's Rustblet Collector here, and today we are taking a look at what is technically the final member of Bad Batch as we saw them in the Clone Wars, though we are still missing, of course, Echo if we're going off of the Bad Batch team, the series Bad Batch team, not the Bad Batch because that's their title. Anyways, it's confusing. We have now completed the original Bad Batch team with this wonderful 6-inch Black Series Tech action figure. Taking a look at this figure overall, it is a very nice representation of good old Tech, as they would say, you know, or Rekka, Tech and Rekka from the Bad Batch, as Omega would say, or Omega would say, you know. It's a good character representation. There's lots of pouches and tools and stuff. The backpack is very nicely detailed as well. But unfortunately, there's also some serious detail missing from this figure that we will have to go over because it's a bit of an oversight, and it's rather unfortunate that they've kind of shorted us on detail, but still having the sculpt there. So it's, as some have said in the community, it's a bit of a DIY figure. You can paint it to look 100% accurate, but coming out of the box, you're going to be missing some very curious details, unfortunately. So as I mentioned, this figure is very nicely detailed. They've got a lot of great sculpt going on here with the legs. The torso is very nicely sculpted. There's, just like with the other members of Bad Batch, you've got all the little scratches and dings actually sculpted into the figure, so if you ever applied a black wash or other paint to it, it would actually bring out a lot of detail that you don't really see under the lighting here. Which is really nice. They've done a good job of sculpting it. I think they could have done a little bit better with the paint apps, unfortunately. And part of that is actually kind of a more serious issue with this figure. There are a lot of missing paint apps. There should be red stripes here on the forearm and the bicep, I believe, on both sides. There's other striping that's just missing overall. I can't remember all the exact places. Definitely here on the backpack, we're missing a lot of detail from the thermal detonators here to the little pad there that should have lights and colors there. There should be multiple tones of gray as well here, not just the one solid cast color of gray. And I'm sure that there are other places that I'm missing, and some of you might say that that's not that big of a deal, it's just a few stripes missing, but I think it just kind of is disappointing. I'm not saying that this is a bad figure because of it. It's just disappointing that they didn't take the time or the money to complete the figure's design to get them to look accurate. That is something, unfortunately, that we've seen with pretty much all of the previous figures for the Bad Batch. They're all missing some markings in some small way, and we've gotten this multiple times before with other figures outside of the Bad Batch. A perfect example would be Commander Bly's little chin stripe. They never went back and fixed that, and then we found out later through some posts on Instagram that it was actually like the CEO type decision, like the top-down decision, where they're just like, oh, the fans won't notice, so we're not going to fix that. It's kind of disappointing to hear those kinds of news, and so when you see this with the missing stripes, even though it's not something that's a deal breaker for me with buying this figure, it is just kind of the sign of like, oh, they actually just don't care about those details, and they know we're going to buy it anyways, so yeah, I guess take that all into consideration when considering this figure, but hopefully, if you're a big enough fan, it won't detract the buyability of this figure, I guess, but that's a totally subjective, and I just wanted to make people aware of that when reviewing this figure. Now, this figure does come with a few different accessories. Starting off, we have the backpack here, which, like I mentioned, is missing some of the paint apps. However, it's still very nicely sculpted. It does have these little antennas, which are nice and bendy, so those aren't going to like snap off or anything. They don't unplug either, which is actually a good thing. Unlike Commander Gree's backpack antenna that could be easily lost, these are nice and sturdily glued in, which I appreciate. It does attach with that same T-peg that we've gotten with all the rest of the Bad Batch, so I guess if you wanted to, you could always pop and swap his backpack with any of the other members of the Bad Batch. Just as an example, here he is with Hunter's backpack. There he is with Hunter's backpack. It looks very Hunter-esque, just the gray color doesn't really match, but you know, it's cool if you want to make a custom figure, you at least now have the opportunity to do so. Obviously, this is probably the backpack that they'll be using for for the Republic Commando, Commando Boss, when it comes out later this year or early next year. I can't remember. And we'll break that figure down when we get it in hand for sure. That's yeah, we don't want to get into that in this review, but I did order it and I will be getting it. Commando Boss in the Black Series. Oh boy. Yeah. So, anyways, the other accessories that this figure comes with are kind of unusable if you don't want to lose them. There are these little tools on his belt that I assume can come out of his belt, but I don't want to take them out because I feel like they could be easily lost, and that would be bad. So he's got three little tools, doodads, things that he uses to hack computers, presumably. He also comes with a DC-17 pistol, though there is no place to holster it on the figure, so he must forever hold it in his hand or be doomed to lose it forever. So there's that. And then he has a helmet with a couple different features. First of all, he has a slide down, slide up little visor there, and then second off, it is removable, which is great to see. However, the biggest gripe I have with this figure, I could handle all the missing paint apps, but the biggest gripe that I have with this figure is that, well, it's kind of twofold. One, why is his visor not transparent? They've done transparent visors before with dual molding and just painting over the plastic. Like, they could have cast all of this in a transparent yellow and then just painted over it to give painted the gray is what I'm trying to say basically, and then this part would be transparent. They've done similar things with the Rebel Pilot helmet, for instance. They could have done it here, and they did not. And then my second gripe is the goggles. Never once in my recollection do we see Tech without his goggles on. When he takes his helmet off, those goggles stay on his head. And this is just kind of weird. Like, it's a good likeness, I think, to the character. This is probably the most Tamora Morrison-like head sculpt that we've gotten for the Bad Batch, and it looks really nice. I think this is a good representation of the character. The hair color might be a little bit on the light side, but overall, it's a good representation. However, he needs his goggles, and I guess I don't really know the engineering behind it. I could be way off, and there might be some complication with getting the helmet on and off with the goggles. But heck, even if they just gave us this helmet like this, with a transparent visor here, and then gave us a pair of goggles that we could just slip onto his head when we take the helmet off, that would be acceptable to me. That would be a acceptable middle ground where we have an accurate helmet and also an accurate head sculpt underneath. Because I know it's not so easy to make a removable helmet when the goggles are, you know, it'd be tough. I can see it being tough. However, there are workarounds that they could have done, and they did not for some reason. However, the figure is still pretty good. I do like this figure. I think it's a cool addition to the Clone Wars collection, the Bad Batch collection. I'm still pleased with it, and I enjoy having it here, and it does feature some really nice articulation. So starting off at the head, you've got the double ball joint system, ball joint up in the head, ball joint in the neck torso area, so you can get a really wide range of articulation on it, and that's always really nice to see, especially since he's a more, like, less armored character, so more articulation, more agility. It just kind of makes sense. The shoulder pads are rubbery, and they are attached to the bicep, so you can get the arm up to there, and then the armor actually kind of slips underneath the torso armor there, gets you up to 90 at the elbow, actually past 90 at the elbow, and then swivel all the way around. It's a single jointed elbow, just like we've seen pretty much with all the new Black Series releases, which I appreciate. They're the pegless single jointed system, and it works really well. There's no complaints for me about that. The hands are on a hinge and swivel as per the usual, in and out on the left hand, up and down on the right hand with the trigger finger. The backpack is a little bit weird. It doesn't want to stay in very well, so that might be an issue that others of you might run into. It's hard to say. Now at the torso, it's quite curious. They actually made this torso piece a floating attachment, I suppose, much like Wrecker's torso, where this is a soft molded piece of plastic just kind of put over top of a molded, sculpted torso. Don't really know why they've shifted to that for these couple figures. Maybe it's something that they'll shift to in the future and do more frequently. They did the same thing with the new Black Series Stormtrooper mold as well, so there's got to be something there, whether it's cost or articulation. Something is provoking that switch to this more floating design, which isn't a drawback by any means. It's just something worth noting, kind of a curious design choice nonetheless. And that leads us to the torso articulation. Forward crunch, back crunch is really nice, and then side to side, just like that. Again, he's a very mobile character, which I do appreciate, so you can get some really nice dynamic poses out of him. And yeah, he's very agile. He's the kind of guy that can get around because he's not weighed down by a bunch of armor, and it just kind of, it makes sense for his character, you know? Down to the hips, your standard Black Series hips, the ball joint and the thigh swivel. He can go forward, back, out to the side, just like that, and you know, that goes down to the single jointed knee, which I don't really appreciate with this design on the troopers. I love the single jointed knee because you can get some really nice crouching positions, especially for someone like Tech. You know, he can be all like this, working on computers and stuff. Very nice positioning there. However, I'm just bothered by the fact that on all of these, the knee pads are always above the knee joint. I think they need to just retool it a little bit, and with the troopers, at the very least, the clone troopers and stormtroopers, put the knee pad down here. That's all I ask. Anything else with this articulation is perfect. It's just that knee pad bothers me so much. But I digress. So moving down to the ankle, single jointed swivel there gets you to a nice little ballerina pose there, and then you can get forward to there, and it is on a rocker. So pretty standard stuff for what we've been getting with the Black Series new sculpts, and I'm okay with that. They're very reliable for good articulation, and just overall, I appreciate them. They're doing a good job on that area at the very least, and hopefully they'll get around to fixing knee pad issues and paint application issues next. Because really they're killing it with the sculpt for the most part. I have seen a few complaints from people here and there, but I'm happy with it. I'm happy with really all the Bad Batch sculpts that they've been releasing. If there was maybe one thing that I would include with this figure apart from the upgrades to the helmet, he could have used like a data pad or something to hold in his other hand where he's tapping into a computer, or, you know, something like that. It would have been a nice accessory since he's only getting the DC-17 pistol. It's not much, and I think that they probably could have done better with accessories, but overall, this is still a really nice addition to the Bad Batch team, and I really like it. Now, as for the ultimate lineup, here he is next to all the other members of the Bad Batch. Let's get that out of there. There's Wrecker, here's Hunter, good old Hunter, the leader. We're going to get him in there. He's looking mighty fine as well. And then we have Crosshair, you know, the old trusty Crosshair. We got him in there as well, and you know, he's still one of my favorite figures from this line. I can't even lie about that. Crosshair is absolutely stunning, and I love having this team now. They look so good together. I guess seeing them now here all lined up, his armor color overall probably is a little bit too bright. It might need to be toned down. Maybe if you gave it, again, like a gray or black paint wash, it would bring it into the right color. I don't know. I guess your mileage may vary. Maybe you're a figure purist and you want them in their raw state like this, and I think that's fine. I think they look good just that way as well. And I think especially when we get the Black Series Echo that was like rumored or announced, I can't remember which. When we get that, this is going to be an absolutely stunning display. Like, this is a pretty easy to pick up wave of figures. Not a wave, but a assortment of figures from various waves that make up a whole team. We haven't really gotten that from the Black Series line before, and this has been pretty straightforward to pick up. Like, I found Tech in stores. I got Hunter from someone who found him in stores as well. I got Wrecker from Dorkside Toys, I think, and I got Crosshair from maybe GameStop. I can't remember where I got him from, but it was really straightforward to pick all of these up, and I was really impressed by that. So hopefully, if you're a fan of the show, you're a fan of Clone Troopers, you've been able to find them just as easily, because you don't want to miss out on them. I think once Season 2 rolls around, people will be wanting these more, definitely, and yeah, they're really, really cool. And before I forget, I kind of normally do this at the top of the video, but before I forget, let's take a look at the packaging lined up, because that is actually kind of another gripe of mine. So here is the box art for Tech. It's the standard red Bad Batch color we've come to expect. Standard new Black Series box art style. Really nice artwork, really nice packaging. Nothing new to really talk about there. But we gotta talk about this. This is some kind of dopey planning going on here. We've got well, okay. We've got this. These guys line up okay there. And then we've got these two lining up, but these don't line up together. They could. You could almost make that work. That's believable. But why is there no... Why'd they put the Covert Ops, Spec Ops, Clone Trooper, I can't even remember his name, the least cool character, why'd they put him between the Bad Batch? That's my gripe. They should have had all the Bad Batch together on one, like, smooth box. It should just be all together. That would make the most sense. I don't know why they didn't. That's just a gripe of mine, but even so, this looks really nice together, and I'm very pleased with it. But anyways, yeah, there's the review of Tech. You know, the final member of the original Bad Batch. And yeah, Echo is also going to be somewhere way out here. He's not going to line up either. It's a whole thing. But anyways, this is Tech. He's cool. You should get him if you like the show. As always, there's a link down in the description. It takes you to my social media if you want to follow me over there, as well as a link to Entertainment Earth. You can pre-order pretty much all these, I think, through that link. Helps out the channel. There you go. And as always, have a wonderful evening, noon, or night. Be kind to one another, and I will catch you all in the next video.